Today, on this very spooky edition of One-on-One Sports,
we look at some NFL disappearing acts,
go trick-or-treating with some NBA basketball,
and talk about some scary good teams competing in the MLB World Series.
We got all that and so much more.
And it all starts right now.
Welcome to our Halloween edition of One-on-One Sports. I'm Cam Soselski.
And I'm Thomas Hale. We got a really great show for you today, so let's kick things off with the quick hitters.
Oakland Raiders owner Mark Davis has expressed interest in moving the team to Las Vegas by the 2019 season. And barring any unexpected surprises, he plans in January to file papers to make the move official. The NFL could hold a vote on the issue as early as January 2. Thomas, what could this issue mean for both the Raiders and for the city of Las Vegas?
You know, I think the Raiders at this point don't need to expand. I think they missed out on LA. That's the thing. I don't know if Las Vegas is the right place for them. Let me tell you why.
Do you think it's a second best option though? That's where I'm at. I think it's better than Oakland.
I think that Oakland's going to make a lot more revenue for them because Golden State's doing well. You got Silicon Valley coming up. You got a lot of money coming into that city. You're going to be making a lot more money there than in Vegas, I feel like. Yes, Vegas is a tourist attraction.
That's what I'm saying. The exposure that you can get through Las Vegas.
That's good. But if Oakland can become a big championship city, Golden State's getting, obviously Golden State's good, but the Raiders are getting better. They could have a football franchise there for a while.
I don't know. I just think the exposure you get in Las Vegas, you have so many tourists coming in every year, so many millions of dollars for
tourists. Tourists. You don't have a true fan base in Vegas, I don't think. I think you're going to be getting a lot of people that are just in Vegas for the time. They just want to go check out a football game. Why not go see a Raiders game?
So I guess it's on the decision of the Raiders then. Do you want to stick with your diehard Raider fans, kind of work around the city of Oakland with Golden State, you said, or do you want to jump on Las Vegas? You know, they're getting an NHL franchise. They could get a football franchise. You put a baseball, baseball franchise.
I think Oakland is very fit for the Raiders now. LA was a great place for the Raiders, but I think Oakland is the best fit for them now. I don't think Vegas is the right move.
I think right now, you're absolutely right. Yeah. I think 5 years down the road, I think Vegas could be an
We'll
good
see
option.
what happens. Maybe if they don't do as well in Oakland, it's a later move, but for right now, keep it in Oakland.
All right. Fair argument.
Recently, the NCAA officially charged Louisville with 4 Level 1 infractions and men's basketball coach Rick Pitino with failure to monitor his basketball program following the investigation of the men's basketball escort scandal in 2015. However, Louisville managed to avoid severe penalties like a lack of institutional control charge. So, Cam, how does this compare to other scandals in the NCAA?
You know, I see it a lot like the Penn State scandal that we saw. You have a very established, pretty well-respected dominant coach who has won, championships, conference championships, national championships.
And they're well-respected all across the league.
Yeah, and then a scandal like this ultimately is probably going to undermine his legacy. Yeah. And the bigger issue here is I think you're seeing a lot of cover-ups in college sports.
That's my issue is that a lot of it, I think obviously the scandals are bad, but I think what's worse is the institutions sweeping things under the rug. They're not telling the public and they're acting like they don't know, but that just makes it 10 times worse.
Yeah, and it's wild that you see so many cover-ups in college athletics. And I think, that's because you're dealing with alumni. You're dealing with donors who don't want to hear about this stuff.
That bad exposure can tank your institution.
Yeah, but ultimately, you need to be upfront about these things. And even in Ohio State with Jim Tressel, with Terrell Pryor, with all that scandals going on, even these big institutions, these major coaches, they don't know how to deal with it the right way.
I think that if they came out front and just explained what they did wrong, I think they would have much more respect than hiding things, finding things out 10 years later like we are now, and just screwing themselves over even more.
And hopefully other universities will learn from Louisville in this scenario.
Yeah.
After losing to the Cleveland Indians in the ALCS, the Blue Jays have an important decision to make concerning the futures of Jose Bautista and Edwin Encarnacion. The two sluggers who struggled mightily in the ALCS will both be free agents this season. What is the best course of actions for the Blue Jays, and can they get by losing one or both of these players?
I think that it's time for them to make a change, and I don't think they can keep both. And I think the right move is that they keep Encarnacion. Bautista's getting old. He's on the downslide of his career. Yeah. Encarnacion, he had a better season last season than I think Bautista did personally. And he's just got more time left.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I see the window closing on the Toronto Blue Jays. And the question is, are they going to have the talent in the system ready to step up and take these positions that are going to open up?
They're losing a lot of their offense.
Yeah, with Bautista, with Encarnacion, you have these big power hitters, and if one or both of those guys is gone at the end of the year, you're going to see opportunities for younger guys to step up and take those roles. The question is, has their scouting been good enough?
Right. Have they been predicting this move?
Has their development been good enough?
And I think that another thing is that, are they expecting both of these guys to leave? I think maybe they have an idea that one of them aren't going to be here next season, but what if Encarnacion gets a better deal? He chooses to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
What if they lose both?
Absolutely.
Do they go to the playoffs next year?
I have a question for you. If you could keep one of those guys, which one would it be?
Encarnacion.
Really?
For sure.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
See, I see Bautista as the face of that franchise in Toronto.
I do too, and that's their slugger, but I think Encarnacion brings more to their team. He's much more important.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. After admitting to domestic violence in several letters, emails, and journals found by police, New York Giants kicker Josh Brown has been placed on the NFL Commissioner's exempt list. The NFL claimed they weren't aware of these documents when they handed Brown a one-game suspension at the beginning of the season. So, Cam, has the NFL handled this issue properly?
It's fitting that we talked about cover-ups earlier.
Yeah.
Because, this has been
Is this another one?
Systematic with the NFL, with them having documents, having evidence against their players, and not really moving forward with that evidence.
You got to act on this stuff once you get it. You can't just be like, oh, we'll wait for more things. We'll wait till later, see what else we get. Because what if you don't get anything else?
Yeah, and you look at what happened with the Ray Rice issue, where it's like, what tapes did they have, what tapes they didn't have, what
that
testimonies.
one was just so blatantly obvious.
Yeah, and I think this is a very similar situation, and it's a very much a he said, she said. Brown came out today, and he was like, I never laid a hand on my wife, so you don't really know what's going to happen.
My problem is that there's a lot of inconsistency with these things. You're giving Greg Hardy big suspensions. You give Josh Brown a one-game suspension. Ray Rice is just off the planet of the NFL now. Who knows what he's doing, which I think Josh Brown's going to be the same way at this point.
I agree.
But you got to have a set punishment for these kind of things. You can't just have a different little range of things that you want to pick from. You got to have one thing that guys can know. If I do this, that's what's going to happen.
And you know what? I understand the mentality. We need to get all the information before we make a ruling. But at the end of the day, it's better to get out in front of this stuff, especially if you're the National Football League, the most watched, most popular
sports league. You're already getting
league
criticized for
in
other
North
things
America.
Too. Like you can't be getting criticized for how you handle these situations when you're handing out $10,000 fines for a guy celebrating a touchdown.
Yeah, and my question is, when is Roger Goodell, when is the NFL going to learn?
Exactly.
And I hope it's pretty soon for the sake of the NFL.
Same.
That'll do it for the quick hitters, but after the break, our college football expert sits down with Thomas for some midseason conversation.
Another wild weekend in college football. We're officially halfway through the season. Don Vernazza joins me at the desk to talk about the season so far. And it's great you're wearing that jersey because that goes into our first topic because it's something that Ohio State is not in, and that's the top 5. So tell me your top 5, Don.
Well, Ohio State is in it, but number 1, it's pretty obvious, it's Alabama. They've been the best team in the nation so far, and what's crazy is they've probably played the toughest schedule. They've had 5 ranked opponents already, hasn't slowed them down a bit. They've beaten ranked teams by an average of 25 points. They beat USC by 46. They beat Tennessee by 39, so they're killing people. Obviously, they're known for their defense throughout their period of history, and this year it's been filthy. They're 7th in the nation, allowing only 15 points a game. But what's crazy is the individual talent. They have 4 guys who go in the first round of the draft, including 3 possible top 10 picks.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Now, in the past, Alabama's had solid offenses, but, they've never really had that dual threat QB that's become so popular in college. But this year, Jalen Hurts is adding a whole new dimension to their offense. It's 7 in scoring at 45 points a game. And what scares me is you're combining Alabama's traditional dominant defense with a spread-like offense. That's scary to think about.
It's no wonder they're blowing out teams, right?
Yeah, no, they're good.
Do you think anyone can beat them that might be in your top 5?
Well, I will say that they've historically struggled with dual-threat QBs. So if they ended up getting Louisville or Clemson in the playoffs, they have struggled to contain mobile quarterbacks. So that's something to look out for.
Okay. How about number 2?
So my number 2 pick is Michigan. They have been probably the most complete team in America. Their offense has been incredible. They're 3rd in the nation at 48 points a game.
Yeah.
And their defense has been probably even better. Best defense in the nation, allowing only 10 points per game.
Which is a big, that's a big thing with Alabama in the league.
Complete team, and I think the person who best exemplifies this is their superstar safety, Jabril Peppers. He lines up everyone on defense. He plays linebacker, corner, safety. On special teams, he's one of the most electric return men. He's even played some offense at running back. He's averaging over 10 yards a carry.
Can't find another player like that.
The guy does it all. I mean, they're beating teams by 38 points. I think if one team could beat Alabama, it might be Michigan.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Bold move.
So number 3, my first 2 picks were kind of well-known teams, historic programs.
Yeah.
My number 3 team I think is flying under the radar a little bit, and that's Washington.
Okay.
They've been incredible, led by quarterback Jake Browning, who's on pace to throw for 52 touchdown passes and only 4 picks while completing 68% of his passes.
Wow.
So efficient.
Yeah.
Him and Myles Gaskin, their leading offense is averaging 48 points a game. And continuing the theme of balanced teams in my top 5, they're 6th in the nation at defense, only allowing 15 points. Chris Peterson was a great coach at Boise State, and now he's at a Power 5 school. He's making moves.
Do you think a lot of this is credited to them being in the Pac-12, though?
I do say that they really seized hold of the Pac-12. The past few years, it's been Stanford and Oregon.
Yeah.
This season saw Washington. They beat
yeah.
Stanford 44-6 in one of the best wins of the season. They crushed Oregon 70-21. I expect them to run the table in the Pac-12, and I think they could be real dangerous in the playoffs.
Okay. How about number 4?
So it's going to be a little controversial, but I'm going with Louisville here.
Ooh.
I know they lost to Clemson, but that game was incredibly close. It basically came down to the last play where Louisville was stopped 1 yard short of a first down. At that point in the game, I think you would pretty much say those 2 teams are really equal. So looking at the rest of the season, I think Louisville's been more dominant. Clemson came in with higher expectations, but at times they've almost struggled with that. And their teams looked a little shaky with close wins over Auburn and NC State, whereas Louisville's dominated.
Okay.
But you can't talk about these teams without mentioning their quarterbacks. And while Deshaun Watson has been really great, Heisman contender in his own right, Lamar Jackson's been simply unreal.
His season.
He's on pace to score 68 touchdowns, including 32 rushing ones, along with 4,000 yards passing and 1,800 yards rushing.
Absurd number.
The Cardinals have the best offense in the nation at 52 points. I just think they've looked dominant. If these 2 teams were to play again and say the ACC championship, I'd have to go with Louisville here.
Okay. That's good. All right, so for your number 5, this is a little surprising. You got Ohio State.
I got to go Ohio State here.
All right.
I know they just had this loss to Penn State, but they've also had some big wins over Oklahoma and Wisconsin. As to be expected out of an Urban Meyer team, their offense has been fantastic, 5th in the nation, 46 points. J.T. Barrett is still one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Mike Webster and Curtis Samuel give them one of the best 1-2 punches at running back. But what really surprises me is how good their defense has been. Also 5th in the nation, allowing 14.5 points, which is crazy when you think of how much talent they lost to the draft the past few years, Joey Bosa, Eli Apple. So this is a young defense that's getting it done. I think they're going to continue to get better as the season goes on.
Do you think this Penn State thing is going to affect them, though?
You know what? This team kind of reminds me of 2014, where they suffered a loss kind of early to a team that was clearly worse than them, and they went on to run the table and win the national championship. So I definitely think they have the talent to do it, and they're going to get a chance because they're playing. They're going to play Michigan in the title game. So I think they do. They still control their destiny to make the playoffs.
Okay, let's expand it out a little more. Let's go to our top 10. Do you have any pretenders in our top 10? Any teams that you just don't believe in right now?
So for me, one team that I don't really believe should be in the top 10 is Nebraska.
Okay.
To start off, they haven't really played anyone strong. The Big Ten's kind of been down this year, not as much talent as in the past. And
Michigan State's usually giving people trouble. They're not doing too
Exactly.
well.
So far, Nebraska haven't really played anyone that strong. Their offense, it's been decent, but not great. Tommy Armstrong, he's an inconsistent quarterback, especially in the passing game. And I just think they're not as good as Baylor. I wouldn't put them over Wisconsin. But their next 2 games are against Wisconsin and against Ohio State, so I think they're going to fall after that.
Possibly make a name for themselves, possibly fall.
I don't think they'll end in the top 10.
It'll be an interesting season. And the second half of the season will definitely be exciting as these teams fight for a playoff spot. Moving on to the big boys now, though. Cam talks NFL football. Stay tuned.
I know, 2 seconds. Hang on, just stand still. Stand still.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
Harry Houdini was one of the best illusionists in history, but some NFL players have given him a run for his money this season. Matt and Ellie are here to discuss. So, Ellie, let's kick it off. What is one player who started the season well but has disappeared? We don't know where he left. We don't know where he went.
Right, Cam Newton. You take a player that at the end of the last year, MVP of 2015, takes his team to the Super Bowl. And what has happened? I mean,
He got a concussion.
He's been
he
banged
did,
up a
that's
little bit.
correct,
He's been
correct.
banged
No,
up.
it's
But
his
you
O-line.
I know, but you have 35 touchdowns in 2015. Yes, he has a concussion or had a concussion. He missed one game. So yeah, he disappeared because he missed a game. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's just, it's terrible.
Well,
for
I mean,
the
and
Panthers.
he's banged up. So you miss that game, but then going forward, you're still going to have
Yeah,
challenges.
he even played with that concussion supposedly a little bit in that game.
Yeah.
So Matt, who's your player?
I went with Jordy Nelson from the Green Bay Packers. Look at the first 3 weeks coming off the ACL injury last year. He had 4 touchdowns, over 200 yards. Bye week, kind of an intermission, come back. Where'd he go?
But the thing is like, it's what player did we expect that would not disappear? And I think that kind of the thing is with him is he had an ACL injury. Do we really expect him to be good?
He was. The first 3 weeks he was good. He had 4 touchdowns in 3 games. Now he's got 1. Look at his last game. 1 catch, 9 yards. Where is he?
All right.
Yeah, Matt, I have to
great.
agree with you. This one hits very close to home with me because he's actually on my fantasy team. I was relying on him the past
my
few weeks. I was like
gosh.
coming off the ACL. He's getting so
I don't
many
know, has
points.
Devontae Adams, but you need to make a trade.
And then he's gone. I should move him. I absolutely should move him. So Matt, let's move from a player to a team that has really fallen off this year.
I went with the Denver Broncos. They started strong, 4-0. That defense was carrying them.
Now but now they're 5-1.
They're 5-2 actually.
Oh, 5-2.
So they've gone 1-2 with losses to the Chargers and the Falcons, 2 teams that their defense should have stopped, but they didn't. They close game against the Texans, and I think with Trevor Siemian at the helm, the offense just isn't as high powered. They don't have that come from behind mentality like they could with Peyton or another
Yeah, but
quarterback.
they're not dying. Like you just said, they're 5-2. This is still a winning team. I'm going with the Carolina Panthers, who are 1-5. So I would say, obviously,
They started
I'm a
strong.
Panthers
This question was who started
Right.
strong and fell off. Did they start strong?
well, absolutely. I mean, you take a team that comes from being in the Super Bowl, and they play the Broncos, and I think that just really messed them up from the beginning. They only lost against the Broncos by 1 point. And like you said, the Broncos, 5-2. I mean, they're not a bad football team. I mean, and the Panthers could have beat them. So my thing is they were expected to be good. Cam Newton was expected to maybe be MVP again. The Panthers expected to maybe go to the Super Bowl again. So I definitely think the Broncos are still a Super Bowl contender. Are the Panthers?
Will they win a Super Bowl with Trevor Siemian at quarterback, Paxton Lynch, whoever it is?
Maybe
to tell,
they have
hard
a
to
better
tell.
chance than the Panthers.
I have a question though. Are you quitting on the Broncos? I think it's too soon.
I'm
yeah,
not
you can't-
because
no.
of that defense. I think they can
Right.
keep them in it. We'll see how February, March. We'll see.
Yeah.
They're in it for now.
Are we seeing a playoff team in Denver this year?
Hard to tell.
But he said they were done.
Hard to tell. They're falling off.
Falling
I don't know how they got to 4-0. Impressive defense.
Right,
That's how they got to
I'm
4-0.
fine with that.
Yeah,
Yes,
all right.
okay.
So we've talked enough about teams and players that haven't lived up to expectations, have gone away a little bit. Let's talk about a player who can resurrect, who can come back and have a great rest of the year. Ellie, who's your guy?
Well, Russell Wilson has had some issues going into the season. He's, a good player, but he only has 5 touchdowns. And I think if the Seahawks would let their running game, and Russell Wilson can run the ball, stop focusing so much on throwing the football and let Russell Wilson do his thing.
Stop focusing on throwing the football. This guy is in the top 5 NFL all-time yards per play, whether it's rushing or passing, anything. And while he hasn't had the business flashy this year, he's still Russell Wilson. He's still top
Exactly,
5.
he's still Russell Wilson, so he can come back. That's my point. Yes, they're not doing well right now, but this is a player that will come back because, like you said, this guy is phenomenal. So he's having a rough spot, but he's going to come back.
He also has a very solid team around him.
Yes, I agree.
yes.
Matt, who's your guy?
I went to Dallas with Dez Bryant, and the first 3 weeks, week 1 was week 2 over 100 yards, week 3 a touchdown, then he got hurt. That whole fiasco with his phone dying, MRI, blah blah blah, whatever. Who knows what goes on in Jerry's world nowadays? But he's coming back this Sunday against Philadelphia. He showed that chemistry with Dak Prescott before he got hurt. I think he's going to make a big return. Look for
This
him
is
to
why
throw up the
I
X
think
a few
no.
times.
Yeah, this is why I don't think so. Is because he was Tony Romo's favorite target. And Dak Prescott has found these other players to throw the football to. So I just don't think he's
Is
coming
he still
back.
the best receiver on that team, though?
I mean,
Who is it?
ma-
Cole Beasley?
Well, maybe. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not saying that he is a bad receiver. I'm just saying I don't expect this comeback because Dak Prescott and Dez Bryant, they're not as compatible as Tony Romo was.
He could be a little rusty, but
Yeah,
we'll see.
We'll see. That's true. Well, personally, I do hope that Russell Wilson comes back, and I do hope that Dez Bryant does. But I guess it's just time.
And
will
Jordy
tell.
Nelson for Cam's sake.
Yeah, I would really appreciate
I would
that.
just like the
Thanks,
Panthers to
man.
do that.
And regardless of what
Better.
happens with Dez, he's had a great year. Or the Cowboys have had a great year
Right,
so far.
right.
So we'll
Surprisingly.
see, when he comes back in the
But it looks
mix.
like that our Giants and our Panthers are not doing too well anyway. So it's all good.
It's now time for us to put on our own disappearing app, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, Thomas is back on the desk for a little NBA trick or treat.
The NBA is finally back in action after a long offseason. I've got Matt Stranzel and Alex Ofori here to play Trick or Treat, where each of our guys either give a treat to a team they like or a trick to a team that isn't looking too hot. So let's make this a little more interesting, guys. No Cleveland, no Golden State. Alex, let's start with the Eastern Conference. Who you got for a treat?
Yeah, so for my treat in the East, I'm going to go with the Indiana Pacers. You look at this team, and in the offseason, they added Thad Young, Jeff Teague, some nice veterans, and really underrated players. Very solid, very good players. I mean, Jeff Teague can play with the best of them at the point guard position. And they also added Al Jefferson, who, off the bench, that's a guy that can play right through there, giving them that punch off the bench. And this year, I think Miles Turner makes the jump. I think I'd look for him to have a breakout season. And Paul George maybe could be an MVP contention. So they'll be right in that top 4 area of the East there.
Nice.
I think the addition of Jeff Teague is huge for them because last season with George Hill, they were drastically missing a guard who could play alongside Paul George and create for them, and I think he helps a ton in that respect.
Yeah,
For my treat, I'm going to go with the Milwaukee Bucks. Everyone expected them to have a big leap last year after they surprised 2 years ago. The problem with them, their defense fell off. They couldn't make a jump shot. I think year 2, having Greg Monroe as their center helps. They figured some things out. The Greek Freak is too good.
Yeah,
He's going
Greek
to make
Freak
the
at the
leap
point guard, the
superstardom.
monster.
Yeah, averaged nearly a triple-double when he started at point at the end of last year. I think they're poised for a big leap this year.
Looking good. All right, let's move on. Who's your trick for the Eastern Conference?
The Chicago Bulls.
Oh.
I would love for someone to explain to me how Chicago is going to score the ball this year. Rajon Rondo cannot shoot. MCW cannot shoot. They add Dwayne Wade, historically bad shooter.
Yeah.
I don't know where offense is coming with the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, I mean, even Jimmy Butler, he's, below average from the three-point line. I just
Yeah.
don't know where the shooting is. I think their floor spacing is going to be really messed
Yeah.
up. But for my trick, I'm going to go with the New York Knicks because, yes, they added Joakim Noah. Yes, they added Derrick Rose. But these guys have missed 115 games over the past 2 seasons. I just don't think they'll be able to stay healthy. And even if they can, we don't really know how good Derrick Rose is anymore.
Right.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
a lot of people are excited about the talent that he has, but if you have to credit Jose Calderon with something, he knew he shouldn't shoot
Yeah.
the ball. Derrick Rose, that's going to be a problem.
Yep, same thing. All right, let's move on to the Western Conference now. Alex, give me your treat for the West.
Yeah, my treat for the West is going to the Utah Jazz.
Nice.
Maybe not a lot of people have been keeping an eye on them, but this offseason they made some big moves, added Joe Johnson, and they already have a lot of depth. I think, honestly, they're probably the deepest team in the NBA, and they have a lot of long, rangy defenders that will match up well with the Golden States of the league, so I think they can really be a top 3, top 4 seed in the West and surprise some people.
Right. I think
you?
what they were missing last year was a great point guard, and George Hill adds that. For my treat in the Western Conference, I'm going down to Houston for the
Nice.
Rockets. Move James Harden to point guard, bring in Mike D'Antoni. They're not going to play any defense next year, but they're going to score 120 points a game, and they're going to be in every single game.
Yeah, and the Rockets are actually my trick because, yes, they could be an offensive juggernaut historic, but they're a very poor defensive team, and they just lost their best defender on their team.
I think he's-
We'll see how they do for the rest of the season. We'll check it out. So the start of the basketball season means that the MLB is coming to a close, but it's not over yet. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back at the lounge to talk the World Series.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection.
hand?
They need you.
No thanks, Dad. I got it.
Okay. I'm gonna go fix the lamp in your room.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
October baseball is upon us, and the MLB is ready to crown its World Series champion. Evan, David, and Stu are here to talk about it. So, boys, I have one question to get us started, and then we can just roll into some World Series discussion. So, ninth inning, you got one pitcher to put in. Do you take Andrew Miller or Aroldis Chapman? Evan, let's start with you.
Miller time every time. I got to go Andrew Miller. You know that he has that 92, 94 slider that's absolutely devastating. To left-handers, it goes away. Right-handers, it goes into the back foot.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's coming, but you don't know when because he has that 96 to 98 fastball with a pretty decent changeup sitting in the mid to high 80s.
Yeah, he does have a large toolbox, but what about that heat
He does
with Chapman?
have a good toolbox, but Chapman, like you said, has the heat. In his first game with the Cubs, he had no pitch under 100 miles an hour. So just think about
He has
that.
the heat.
Yes,
That's
he has
it.
the heat.
Yeah,
No,
only,
have you seen the slider? Have you seen the slider?
The Chapman slider hangs over the zone too much. It gets hit a lot of the time.
But they never see it coming.
That's
Yeah,
because all
they're
those
just
things.
expecting the heat the whole time. So when the slider actually comes, and even though it sits
I don't know
there,
about
they're
you.
just
I can't even
confused
hit a
by it.
105 mile per hour fastball out there. So.
He rarely throws 105. He did that once, but just to give you an idea, Miller throws his fastball and slider around 50% of the time even. So the batters don't know whether it's a slider or a fastball, and he'll throw it in any count. Chapman, you're going up to there. You know he's coming with a fastball.
My problem with Miller, though, is when you're talking about the ninth inning, Miller, this entire postseason, he's been playing fifth, sixth, seventh inning.
Been doing the
Chapman
long
has
reliever.
played ninth inning. He comes in sometimes in the eighth. He's always in the clutch moment. I want to take the guy in the moment that matters.
I want to take the guy
that
who
has the
shut down the
experience.
Blue Jays. 7 2/3 innings pitched, 3 hits, no runs, no earned runs, no walks, 14 strikeouts.
Chapman also shut
11
down
straight
the
shut
San
down.
Francisco Giants on an even year. That's something to
That
sniff
is
at,
definitely a
but
testament,
Also,
yeah.
you have to remember that the best closer of all time, Mariano Rivera, he had one pitch that he threw 100% of the time. You always knew it was coming.
I'm a fan of Mariano.
So
I am
in
a
that
fan. I am
regard,
a fan
the
of
fact that
Mo.
Chapman has two pitches to work with, gives him a bit of an edge.
Chapman rarely uses other pitches. Now,
Fair.
going back to your Mariano point, I'm a fan of Mo. You know, he's the greatest of all time. But as you saw, when teams caught on to it back in 2001 and then 2004 against the Red Sox, they were able to beat him. So it's all, a matter of fact of can the Indians catch up to his fastball. And plus, when it comes in hot, the further it goes out.
But I
So,
mean, that's the
if
thing.
they can touch it.
Chapman has
They
been
can.
so good all year. Like, nobody's really been able to figure him out that much. Do you think that the Indians will be able to?
I think there's a chance they can, but then also I look at the fact that 100 plus miles an hour, Chapman definitely does not have the best command and can lose it at times and in clutch moments. So I'm looking at his
But it's
command
also
issues,
about the electricity that he brings into the stadium, just throwing that heat.
which is what Andrew Miller brings in the say. Like when Andrew Miller comes in, it's going to be fun baseball to watch because he just blows batters away, makes them look foolish out there. And plus, with the Cubs putting Schwarber in the lineup, that's another left-handed bat that's going to have to face that sidearm delivery of Andrew Miller.
Well, I mean, these are two key pieces of the team, not the whole team. So let's just go down the line. Your World Series prediction.
Indians in 5.
Indians 5.
Cubs in 6.
Cubs in 6.
Cubs in 5.
All right, excellent. There you have it. It will certainly be one to remember, but hey, we need to step away. When we come back, Thomas and I talk the scariest stadiums in sports.
Halloween is the season for haunted houses, but let's talk about a team's home. Cam, what's the scariest stadium in sports right now?
So I'm going down to Louisiana. I'm going down to LSU, baby. Death Valley, man. Death Valley.
Death Valley.
Terrifying.
I'd shiver if I walked into a place
That's
named
what I'm
Death
saying.
Valley.
This has been the place that opposing collegiate football games go to die for the past decade, maybe 2 decades.
Not this season.
Not this year. They're
All
having
right.
a rough year, but I
Okay.
tell you, the fans get wild. You don't want to play LSU. Teams are always circling that
They bring
game on
a
that
tiger
schedule.
there.
That's what I'm saying. There's this big tiger statue that sits outside the opposing team's locker room. And in fact, the fans have been so loud at one point, it registered on the Richter scale as an earthquake.
Well,
the stadium literally shook.
Speaking of
Terrifying.
breaking sound barriers here, I'll give you mine. First of all, I interpret this differently.
Okay.
What's the place that a team would be scared of playing at? Speaking of breaking sound barriers, Seattle Seahawks
Oh, yeah.
Stadium.
Yep.
The Legion of Booms out there, they're big, they're loud, they're yelling their butts off. All these teams going there, they can't catch a victory or anything.
I like it. It's a new stadium. You got the 12th man up
Yeah,
there.
it's looking good. They're known for their crowd. But the scariest stadium, I got to give it to the Raiders. And let me tell you why. You score a touchdown. You run to the sideline in the Raiders Stadium. What do you see? You see this big, burly guy with metal chains all
Big
over him.
spikes
yeah,
coming
there's
off the
spikes all over
shoulders,
the place.
yeah.
Just a silver and black mohawk. He's staring at you like, get out of here. What are you doing? Go to your end zone. I'd be terrified if
You
I
know,
saw
talking
a guy
about
like that.
NFL football, you talk about Lambeau Field, you know, those people are actually
Yeah,
crazy.
the
Cheeseheads,
cheeseheads,
that doesn't even make any sense.
It doesn't.
They own the team. You know, the weather's cold. If I was a team,
They
I'd
make
definitely.
cheeseheads scary somehow.
I would not want to go to Lambeau
Me
if I was a
neither.
team like that.
It's freezing.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We got frozen cheese. That's all the time we have for this Halloween episode of 101 Sports.
Huge thanks to all the producers, crew, and talent here at the show, and you, the viewer, for tuning in.
If you missed anything, please make sure to check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at 101 Sports. For all of us here at 101 Sports, thanks for watching, and as always,
Whose side are you on?